Would you look at that? My nasty stained carpet is, however stained it may be, mostly clear. You can walk around in this room. I don't know if this room has been particularly walkable for as long as I've had a YouTube channel. Don't look at the desks. Don't look at the desks. They're bad. Anyway, and don't look at my bed either. I make that at night when I actually go to sleep. But anyway, I have a bookshelf now with the box for my Mezzi 99s and the parts for it still sitting on top of it. Some alphabetized but loosely curated games and some other software and junk, some music CDs, all my manga, a bunch of clear DVD cases that I have no idea what I'm going to do with. On the other shelf, I have some compilation novel series that I paid way too much for. I mean, I didn't pay too much for them. I paid what they're supposed to cost, but some comics that I bought for class at school. That was a cool class. And then a whole bunch of tech books that I've bought at thrift stores and stuff. And my anime figurine collection that I've recently started in the last couple of years. I don't have an explanation for that. If you'd told me like 5 years ago that I would be collecting anime figurines, I would have told you were crazy. And yet, here I am. The Fumo I got for free from a Twitter giveaway, which is pretty neat. And then Blue is like my oldest stuffed animal, so, you know. Anyway, so that's changed. Like this corner of the room has changed. The desk, I think, is the same as it last was. I might not have made a video since I turned that one that way, but other than that, I mean, it's quite a bit cleaner in here. I've got this Pentium 4 that I recently built, and I even put stickers on to make it feel authentic. And this is a pretty neat machine. I use this for, like, hence with the dual monitor setup, like it's 2004. I use this mainly for, like, cool old productivity software. And this motherboard that's sitting here, we'll get to that in a bit. That's actually the main event for this video. But, so I use this. I wrote a whole weird, completely useless ASP-based, like, message board thing a while back just for fun because I wanted an excuse to use this computer. I wrote it in Dreamweaver 8 on Windows XP. This is a Pentium 4 2.8, single core, single thread, 512 megs of RAM, GeForce 5600 Ultra. It's similar to the computer that my dad had at this point in time when it would have been, you know, new, but it is a Pentium 4, not an Athlon XP like his was. Regardless, I have it sitting here because this is like, I wanted this to be a time capsule of like a productivity machine / light gaming machine that somebody might have had at one point, you know. Every computer in this room serves a purpose of some sort. If you open the closet, there are more. This is a G5. It doesn't work. This is a G4. It mostly works. This is a Pentium MMX. It works perfectly. I actually love using that machine. This is the actual Athlon XP that I had as a kid, although the motherboard and CPU have been swapped long since. They died, and this one is also not faring well, which is why it's not hooked up. This is a Pentium 2 266, I think. I run some Windows 95 stuff on it, but I use the Pentium 1 more often. On top of it is a compact portable 386. I made a video about it years ago. It's way cooler than I realized it was back then. I might have to revisit it at some point. That is a Dell Inspiron 530S, which is completely uninteresting, but I didn't have anywhere else to put it. Up above my shirts, I have some old camcorders, motherboards, and other peripheral cards, and a whole bunch of edutainment games stashed away in this shelf. Some big box stuff here. And a broken SCSI controller enclosure, that I don't really know what to do with. Some zip drives up there. A bunch of floppy containers, some full, some empty. Ignore the bin of socks. That's just literally where I store my socks. But there's some CDs up here too. This is mostly overflow stuff that I only use once in a while. Over here, we have my M1 Mac Mini, right there, with my old Dell Ultrasharp vertical and my 4K LG monitor horizontal. When I'm actually doing video work on this machine, I plug in that RAID array over there. I'm probably not going to do that for this video though, because I think I finally have good video editing software on my main computer. This cabinet is empty. Starting like a few months ago and up until like 2 days ago, this had this crappy AMD A10 based machine. It went dead. Its parts are laying in the floor. I haven't put them away yet. And the CPU is tucked away over here. Looks like an AMD CPU, you know. These are impressively bad by today's standards. Like, it's amazing how bad they are. And that is the whole reason this video is happening. Because I had to start thinking about what I actually use this room for, other than sleeping and reading books, and devise a plan for how to do things a little more effectively. So this is my actual retro gaming corner, right? This is where I hook up my useful machines and sit down for hours at a time and play games. That's what I do over here. This is where I do homework and some other things. The AMBX lights haven't done anything in a very long time, and I'm trying to figure out where I should put them, or if I should even leave them hooked up, or what. I don't know. I'm figuring that out as I go. The iMac G3 is plugged in. It mostly works. I think it's got some capacitor problems on the display board or something. It makes some concerning noises, but it does turn on and run. I already explained that. The 386, it's a 20 MHz 386. I can't really do much with it. These two laptops don't do much. That Pentium 3 doesn't do much. That Pentium 4 doesn't do a whole lot, but it is a cool, very early Pentium 4. Cool because of how bad it is, I might add. This is my Mac Pro. I use it for games from the mid-2000s pretty much. And this is my Dell Precision 360. That's really what I spend most of my time on in this room at this point. And this is my Dimension 4100, which runs Windows 98, that I use for really old stuff. This monitor I got very recently. Hi, Amelia. And it was pulled from the trash, basically. It's got a chip in the glass right here, so it's not in as good of shape as my Samsung SyncMaster that I used to use here was. But the SyncMaster would do 1024 by 768 at 85 Hz and 1280 by 960 at 60. This will do 1280 by 960 at 85 Hz, 1600 by 1200 at 60. And this is the same size display, so it looks insanely good. These speakers are also a recent acquisition. My dad bought them for me at a thrift store. They sound really good for what they are. The subwoofer's not even that big, and it puts out enough. These old Trinitrons take a long time to warm up. And this is a bit of a quirky monitor. It does not have EDID at all. This monitor, despite being from like year 2000, I think, if you don't install the display driver or define the display modes, the computer doesn't know what to do, and it will try to overdrive it. It's very strange. I've never had a monitor do that. This keyboard is the good Dell Quiet Key, the one that uses the NMB domes with sliders. It's funny, you don't actually notice that it's very different from the other ones that just use regular rubber domes, but it's so much less mushy. I would rather use one of these than a scratchy, worn-out AT101, to be honest. The AT101 is an excellent keyboard if it's in good shape, but so many of them are not. These don't really go bad the way the AT101 does. I mean, they're membrane boards. They're not going to last as long in terms of sheer number of key presses, but let's be real. Most of these are probably bundled in with like family computers and stuff, and they're just rarely really used that much. This mouse is nothing to write home about. It's a PS2 optical mouse from might be from like 2007 actually. I don't know. One of the last PS2 mice I ever owned, I think. It does the job okay. It does like that thing where like sometimes it'll just go all the way up to a corner. It does that sometimes, but it's okay. I like to use this machine for 90s games, obviously. such as Half-Life.
Good morning, and welcome to the Black Mesa Transit System. This automated train is provided for the security and convenience of the Black Mesa Research Facility personnel. The time is 8:47 a.m.
This is the Precision 360. It is a very fast, early Windows XP machine. It's really more like a middle of the XP era, but it still uses an early architecture. So it's got AGP and socket 478 Pentium 4, but it is hyper-threaded, it's 3.2 gigahertz, it has 2 gigs of RAM, and a SATA hard drive. The thing sings. And I love using it for these earlier XP games. Like something like Morrowind, or Tron 2.0. I don't know if you consider GTA 3 an XP game. I guess you would, but, you know. But more importantly, lately what I've been looking forward to using this machine for, I haven't done it yet, is you may notice that the path delineators are yen signs, and that's because I have East Asian language support installed, because these old Japanese visual novels that I have never indulged in but have several on my list that I would like to, they really look absolutely gorgeous on this screen. Well, how do you skip? There we go. You may notice, well, that refresh rate. Oh, is this? These run at 85 hertz. Okay. Well, you can see, maybe you can't. It's a CRT, so this scales beautifully, or rather it doesn't scale at all. And if you wanted to play a visual novel like this, it would look absolutely perfect. Now, something that it will be relevant later is this right here. I do own this. This is not the copy of it that I own. I downloaded a cracked version because I wanted to try to run it on XP. The Steam version, I think, has Steam DRM in it, so it won't run on XP because you can't run Steam on XP anymore. But if you crack it so that you don't need the Steam DRM, this HD remaster of this particular visual novel, HD, what it's actually done is they re-rendered their CGs at 960p, which means I can play it on my CRT at an absolutely gorgeous resolution. This doesn't look very good on a modern display because it has to be scaled. But this is insanely high resolution for a CRT, especially of this size. And this is the native resolution of this. The original one was either 480 or 600. Either way, this is considerably higher resolution, possibly double. And just to show you the display settings here, they actually had to add scaling support, but what you should do is run this at original size at 960p if your goal is to run this on a CRT. But, thing is, yes, I bought this on Steam. Yes, there's a cracked version that works on Windows XP, but I don't actually recommend you do that because the Steam version has achievements. What am I supposed to do if I want to play on a CRT, but I want to earn my Steam achievements? Well, you have to hook a modern computer up to a CRT. And you might say, well, isn't that where the Mac Pro comes in? Before I actually move on here, I seem to have somehow tweaked the chassis on my Mac Pro. The side panel doesn't really fit anymore, and this is bent, and I think I might have actually broken a weld. I'm not 100% sure. It's a little odd. But there's the inside of my Mac Pro. You can see a PhysX card on the top, a Sound Blaster in the middle, and the 8800 GT on the bottom. Oh, that's nice. Oh yeah, that's nice. My PS2 adapter, for whatever reason, always makes the Mac EFI think I'm holding down the mouse button. I don't know why. This has XP on it. I don't really use it very often. I mainly use it for, like, Myst 5 and a couple other random XP games that just don't run well on the GeForce 7600 that's in the Dell. Usually I'm using Windows 7. So, this might seem a little weird, but the truth is that the main reason I've been using this recently, and you can see the Steam icon is here, but guess what? See, it is... Okay, we got about 2 or 3 weeks of Steam left on Windows 7, so this computer's not going to be able to run Steam for much longer, so that's not really the solution after all. What I do use this for, though, is for some reason these two games, on all of my XP machines, they keep hanging. Even XP on this very computer, it hangs. It doesn't on Windows 7. These games are from like 2003. I don't know why it's happening, but might as well demonstrate the game, I suppose. What is going on? It does this sometimes. See how it's running there, but it's not actually doing anything? Yeah, that's great. Kill that. Also, you can't run it from the CD because this one wants to run as an admin, and games running as admin on Windows 7 behaves weirdly. Oops. So, 1600 by 1200 at 60 hertz. Let's see if I can load a map where you can actually see something. This might be good. So yeah, it looks absolutely amazing. And since I have a Sound Blaster in here, like I do on the other two machines, went out of my way to find a PCI Express Sound Blaster, we have EAX, you know, true 3D sound and all that. And I have no weapons because this is the Force Temple, but whatever. You can see what it looks like, and it looks great. Wow, so I just went to shut the computer down, or exit the game and then shut the computer down, and something really stupid just happened. I guess this is what happens when you've hooked a million different computers up to this monitor to test things, but the monitor's display mode memory got full, and all of a sudden it reset the settings for the display mode that is most commonly used, because I guess it was the oldest setting. So, all of a sudden, my desktop was squished slightly, and nothing was really circular, and it was like cut off on the edge, and I had to not only reposition it, but redo the keystoning and everything, because it's an old worn out monitor and the geometry isn't really very good anymore. I hope I don't have to do that a lot. That's really annoying. Not like a deal breaker for the monitor, really. But man, that ticked me off. It was really annoying. Anyway, I'm going to shut this computer down now. So, to kind of summarize, the Dimension 4100 Windows 98, GeForce 3 Ti 500, Sound Blaster Live, 30 gig hard drive. This is my Windows 98 gaming PC. It's not the best Windows 98 gaming PC. It's kind of, sort of period correct. Well, no, it's more than sort of period correct. It's pretty much period correct. It's an 800 MHz Pentium 3 with 512 megabytes of SD RAM and the other parts I just listed. It's a tiny bit faster than it would have been back then, but really, stuff runs on here as you would expect. It does a pretty good job at that. This is slightly not period correct. 3.2 GHz Northwood Pentium 4 HT, 2 gigabytes of DDR ECC. That's actually factory. I didn't upgrade that. It's just overbuilt. A 250 gig SATA hard drive. That's not original. A Sound Blaster Audigy 2. That is factory. That came with the machine. It's a Dell-specific card. And a Gigabyte GeForce 7600 GS that is passively cooled, and I've duct taped a fan to it because it doesn't stay cool enough. Yeah, this performs a little bit better than it originally would have, and it can run games from around 2005, and it can do them okay. So, I use that for 2000s games, whereas I use that one for 90s games. This, like I said, is my Mac Pro. It's an original Mac Pro 1,1, 12 gigs of FBDDR2. There's actually 16 gigs installed, but one of the DIMMs has failed, and I've never bothered to replace it. Because it's a server architecture, it doesn't actually make anything quit working. It has just disabled that bank, and it keeps working just fine. It has 4 hard drives, because it's multi-booted and stuff. I don't remember what they all are, but it's got an AGA PhysX accelerator that I have no games that use really, except maybe for Crazy Machines 2, I think. It has a Sound Blaster Xi Titanium that I bought last night, actually, at a local video game store, weirdly enough. And a GeForce 8800 GT 512 that is capable of running Crysis at a pretty decent frame rate, actually. So this thing, although it's from 2006, it's built more like it's from like 2008. Although its dual Xeon 5160 chips leave a lot to be desired in the gaming department. I should probably do the firmware hack to let it use quad-core chips and buy a couple of those and put them in here. Between these 3 machines, I have covered 3D PC gaming from about 1996 to 2006, and some from 2007 and 8. Anything older than the Pentium 3, I use the Pentium 1 or 2 for, depending on how much power I actually need and the vibe I'm actually feeling at the time. That's not very often. Most things will run on Windows 98 on this computer anyway, and I trust this computer a lot more than I trust either of those older machines. Anything that has trouble running on Windows 98 for whatever reason, even though it might be from the correct era, I try to run on that. And as long as they are compatible with Windows XP, that will run them okay. If it takes a little more power than this machine can put out, I run it on here. Some games, the reason I actually use both of these rather than just using the Mac Pro like I would have originally intended is because some games, Knights of the Old Republic in particular, hate the newer Nvidia drivers and the PCI Express Nvidia cards in particular. So Knights of the Old Republic does some weird, unstable things on this machine, and every other newer machine I have tried. It's not just this machine. And this machine, when I had Nvidia driver version like 294 or whatever it was installed, a very new one, same thing was happening. I reverted it to driver version 175, the one that is designed for use with the 5600, and that fixed it. This machine no longer has problems with that game. So, I say all that to say, it's actually very important for the games that I play that I actually have all 3 of these machines. I use them all fairly frequently. Which brings us back to this, the reason for this video existing in the first place. So, remember how I said that one visual novel had a Steam remaster that ran at 960p and looked gorgeous on CRTs, but it's on Steam so you can't run it on old computers? Well, I needed a solution for that. And originally that solution was going to be that crappy AMD A10 computer that I had, but it was so insanely slow on Windows 10 that even if it hadn't died, I didn't really want to use it for that. When that computer died, I texted one of my friends, Michael actually. You've probably seen him in videos before, if you're stuck around my channel long enough. And he said, well, I have this Falcon Northwest computer that you gave me years ago. And I was like, oh yeah. Friend gave it to me. I just straight up didn't have room for it at the time. And I gave it to Michael, and he kind of stripped it apart and used some things here and there, because it was... It's not just that I didn't have room for another computer. The case was huge and unwieldy. It was honestly insane. Like, I love it for how insane it was, but it was so overbuilt, over-engineered, that it was just inconvenient to deal with. So he stripped the motherboard out, put it in something else, and some stuff happened here and there, and, you know. It came back to me eventually. It's an i7-4930K. It's an Ivy Bridge E chip. And this is an Ivy Bridge E motherboard. The X79 Deluxe from ASUS. This is actually their second X79 board. It came out 2 years after the first one. 16 gigs of fancy G-Skill memory. I forget exactly how these are split, but like some of these slots are PCI Express Gen 3, some are Gen 2, because the chipset is Gen 2, the CPU is Gen 3. It's a weird hodgepodge of different controllers and stuff. You may notice all these various ICs around. There's like 3 or 4 USB 3.0 controllers, some of which are controlled by the chipset and some are not. There's 12 SATA ports. These 6 on the right are controlled by the chipset. These on the left are not. These 2 are SATA 3. These 4 are SATA 2. These 6 are SATA 3. And this is like, so these 6 are by the Intel controller, these 4 are on a Marvell Yukon controller, and these 2 are on an ASMedia controller, I think. And I don't know why there's 3 controllers instead of just 2, but there are, and it's weird, and it's hilarious, and I love it, because it's just bizarre. It also has 2 Ethernet cards. This one is Intel. This one is Realtek. Why? I have no idea, but that's what they did. It has onboard audio that's probably fine, but I don't really need it because I have the Sound Blaster Audigy 5 here, which is from 2013, despite it being from the Audigy lineup, and it probably doesn't have as good of a DAC on it, actually, but it has some features that I will want, so I plan to use it instead. Just tons of USB all around, just USB everywhere. There's no shortage of front I/O on this thing. Cooler is my old Hyper 212 Evo. Please stop recommending this cooler to people. Please stop. There are so many better coolers nowadays. I think most people know that now, but, you know, I was guilty of recommending it to somebody when I had this one, and I've now learned that there are just way better things. It's not that it's really bad. It's more that it's a nightmare to get mounted on most boards. And this one was so bad that it claimed the life of one of my B150 boards. Because I don't know if I missed the screw with my screwdriver or what I did, but whatever happened, I cut into some traces around the CPU and it never turned on again. However, the reason I was okay with using it on this machine is because this is an LGA 2011 board, and its mounting system, I don't really want to try to pick the board up. Well, I guess I probably can. If you look over here, LGA 2011 boards, ow, that was a bad idea. LGA 2011 boards have built-in backplates, and they don't need the terrible backplate that this cooler would have come with. They just use these little nuts that you screw down into the built-in backplate, and you mount the cooler down on that. Those parts are actually designed for AMD boards, but they work on these later Intel boards. So it mounts great to this machine, and seems to cool the CPU effectively. I have tested this like this. It does work, but now we enter into the conundrum as to why this machine hasn't been built yet. Also, this is not my motherboard box. This is Michael's latest computer motherboard box. He just gave me this board in. So the problem. You may notice that this is a case that has never been in a video before. It's my newest acquisition, I think, case-wise. And it's housing a Pentium 4 because it's old. I don't have any modern cases free, or even any modern power supplies for that matter. For me to be able to build this machine and use it in here, which I do want to say I also plan on, it's going to go in that cabinet, it's going to live there, it's going to have these 2 monitors hooked up, and that's going to be my PC in here for when I want to do PC stuff for the most part. When I want to play a Steam game on a CRT, it will move over here. But as it stands right now, I can't build it because I need a case and a power supply, which I have ordered. It's been about $110. I got a Fractal Design Focus G, which looks pretty early 2010s despite being from 2017, and a Thermaltake Smart 500 watt or something like that, just some cheap crap power supply that had a beefy 12 volt rail. I mean, it's not modular, it's certainly not a high tier power supply. In fact, I'm a little wary of using it on an i7 Extreme. I'm not actually sure if this qualifies as an i7 Extreme, but I don't care. I'm going to pretend it does because the 4960X, as you might expect, costs way too much because people always charge ridiculous amounts for the highest end chip on a socket, even though that doesn't actually mean it's particularly useful compared to the lower end ones. They just want a lot of money for it for no reason. So we're going to pretend that this is a 4960X, even though it's a 4930K. Fun thing. The case was supposed to come in on Friday. It's Tuesday right now. I actually chose to purchase it from the store I did because it would be here on Friday. And then the knuckleheads at UPS, before it even made it onto a truck, were just like, oh, there's a delay. Yeah, it's going to be here Monday now. Really great, guys. I've literally not had a single package from you idiots come in time in like a year. That's why I'm not going to actually be able to build this until next week, and why this video is going to come out way before this computer is going to be built. And I just wanted to talk about it and give you a little bit of a room update. And, yeah, so I guess that's it. It feels a little weird to have spent, like, a reasonable amount of money on parts for a computer from 2013 or 2014 or whenever this might have been from. But this will be, like, the fourth best computer I own, I think, in terms of raw power. This slots in below my Skylake, and I have my Skylake machine that was my last computer, my 10th gen i7 laptop, and then my Ryzen 5 3600 gaming PC. And this will be under those three, and above everything else I own. This is like a super nice, powerful desktop PC. And I'm not counting my servers in that because they don't thing. There's also a GTX 760 in this box that actually belongs to this board. I will be using it as well. It's not going to be a crazy powerful machine, but it's going to be enough for what I'm going to be doing up here, and it'll run some Steam games on some CRT monitors for fun because it has an analog video output. It'll drive 2 monitors so I can do programming or whatever the heck I want to do. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but that's the plan at least. So anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for staying subscribed if you've really been subscribed to me for years now and I haven't uploaded a video in, I think, over a year now. Maybe I uploaded like a really crappy short one earlier this year. I actually don't remember. But I have not been uploading a lot of videos the last few years, so thanks for sticking around if you have, and if you are somehow new and found this video by chance, thank you very much for sticking around to the end of the video. And thank y'all, and take care.